Hello, it is I, Merlinstergandaldore. I've cast many dry-cleaning cantrips on my hat, gotten rid of that asparagus smell, and now I'm ready to continue the recap of the clearing of Castle Caldwell. So, let's have at it. As always, the action is recreated using the Order of the Stick Monster for Every Season cutout minis. Today's players: Neil, playing Onion Buns Bumblestump, neutral halfling. Nathaniel, playing Colin Bush, lawful cleric of Ilona. Marcel, playing Legolas, chaotic elf. George, playing Shamil, a lawful thief. Back at the keep on the Borderlands, the team discusses their next move. Legolas wants to tell Clifton Caldwell that they've cleared the keep, and then rush back and grab the loot they left behind before Caldwell properly takes a look. The others veto this plan, however. Instead, they send Shamil hightailing it to Kleina in the hopes that he can find an extra sword arm, as there aren't any volunteers at the keep at this time. The DM having checked against the Keep module's standard 50% chance of available retainers who will serve as mercenaries, yielding none. The plan is agreed to, and he takes off. The rest of the team buys a mule, then head back to Caldwell's Keep to meet Shamil with any retainers he can find. In Kleina, Shamil meets two prospects, offering them arms and shares. Reaction rolls prompt an uncertain response, so he sweetens the pot and ultimately only scores the interest of Martin. Martin accompanies Shamil to the castle, where they unite with the team and head in. The group is very dismayed to discover the pile of coin they left behind is gone. But, in the very least, they can earn the money from Caldwell by finishing the job. They creep down the hall slowly, an eye to trouble, listening at doors. They hear a clicking behind one and a scratching behind another. An otherwise disused kitchen reveals a few tables and a lone leather chest sitting against the west wall. The group is wary and leaves it for now. Opening to an old storeroom, Legolas inspects a pile of discarded sacks, spooking a snake. He attempts what he calls an elven song of calming while slowly backing away. The snake spits venom at his face, but he raises his shield and turns his face in time, aka a successful saving throw. Onion Buns looses an arrow, striking true and scoring 6 damage, killing the snake with a single shot. The group continues examining rooms. A wandering monster check is made, and 4 goblins appear, gaining surprise. They retreat, but Bumblestump sees them out of the corner of his eye and warns the team that he saw movement. They form up and creep forward, listening and checking doors as they go. Legolas spots a goblin spying from a door before ducking in and shutting it. Fearing a trap, Colin tosses a torch down an adjacent hallway to the keep tower area, hoping to suss out a potential flank ambush. But there is nothing there. Listening at one of the doors in the hall, Legolas hears chattering and shushes. They block that door with a large butcher's table from the disused kitchen they previously discovered. A group of goblins screams and emerges from one door, but Legolas fells one with his magic missile, and a barrage of attacks from the group fells another while they push into the room. They see 2 more goblins and 3 men. Colin and Shamil call for surrender, but Legolas and Bumblestump just outright kill the 2 goblins. The 3 men surrender, however, with 2 immediately dropping their swords. The third surrenders, but keeps his sword in his hand. This group of men has a pack mule of their own, loaded down with tons of gear and treasure, including, the team eventually sees, their loot that had gone missing. When asked about their presence here, they speak of the Goblin Wayside Inn, as they call it, where the goblins who occupied the keep offer shelter for travelers in exchange for coin. When asked about other residents, they mention a crazy holy woman. The group tells the 3 men to skedaddle, which they do, after grabbing some packs with bedrolls and their weapons. The men attempt to lead their mule out, but the team stops them and tells them their loot is forfeit. There are protests, but the morale roll isn't high enough for them to fight, so they give up. Shamil tries offering them work as retainers, but Legolas' drawn bow and insistence that they leave is far more persuasive. It does occur after the fact to the lawfully aligned Shamil and Colin that they just robbed those men, seeing as there is no evidence that they had committed any crime other than squatting in what they assumed was an abandoned castle.
You'll have to do better in the future, fellows. If you wish to remain lawful, that is.
The group goes to the door indicated by the men where the holy woman resides. Listening, they hear a woman chanting. Legolas pounds on the door, trying to prompt a response. He bellows out, demanding that she open up. The priestess opens the door, then backs away, armed with a mace and armored in plate mail, ready to defend herself. Legolas tells her that they are removing inhabitants at the behest of the new owner. Some back and forth occurs as she queries about the new owner, but ultimately agrees to depart if they return the 400 pieces of silver she paid the goblins for shelter. The group counts out the coin and passes it to her in a sack. Then she packs up and leaves without further incident thanks to a positive reaction roll.
You see, people? Sometimes it's good to talk, rather than just fight.
Back at the room barricaded by the butcher's block from the kitchen, the group pounds on the door, getting a guttural voice telling them that no one is home. Angry, Legolas insists that they open up, or the group will be forced to smash it in and kill them. The door opens and 3 terrified kobolds treat with the group. Legolas tells them to vamoose, and low morale as the kobolds flee without a second thought. A barred door on the other side of the kobolds' room leads to a courtyard, where 2 very hungry and possibly rabid wolves emerge and attack. The group creates a missile formation, backing away and shooting. They kill one wolf as it attempts to pull Legolas down and wound the other, causing morale failure. It retreats to a corner of the courtyard. During the wolf fight, Bumblestump's willpower fails and he attempts to lead the mule loaded with all of the treasure found thus far away from the fracas. The others notice and give chase, while Legolas readies a sword and shield to finish the last wolf. The fight is hairier than he expects, avoiding some close calls, but he ultimately slays it. When Colin, Shamil, and Martin catch up with the halfling, Bumblestump explains that he was simply leading the mule with the loot to a safer location. A back and forth between the halfling and the 2 lawful characters ensues, and they almost believe him until he tries to bribe them to remaining silent about his actions. When an enraged Legolas shows up and asks what was going on, it is revealed that Onion Buns was attempting to make off with the loot. The elf draws his bow and asks why the halfling is still alive. Colin and Shamil tell him that it's not in their purview to execute people summarily. The angry elf gives Onion Buns a chance to depart and forfeit his share, but Onion Buns stubbornly insists that he'll go if Legolas gives up a jewel box they found earlier, which he'll take as his share. To that, Legolas looses his arrow, but misses. He draws again, but Bumblestump turns and flees out of the keep. Completely bewildered at the halfling's actions, they are surprised to see a familiar face as Secundus von Zool arrives. Neil bringing in an alternate character after Onion Buns' departure. And the latest example of contrived character entrances tells of Secundus having been in prayer and meditation since their return from Raven's Ruin, but ready to resume travels with his friends, having learned at the keep that they came here.
Indeed. I wonder just how bad contrived entrances will get in this game.
Just wait till session 9, my minions. I may or may not have peeked ahead.
The group continues to search. Opening the door where they heard scratching, a giant shrew attacks with such ferocity that Legolas, Colin, and Shamil are terrified and flee in panic. This is not due to lack of character, but rather an ability of the creatures to prompt a saving throw versus death in opponents with 3 hit dice or less. Failure resulting in fear. Though, upon review, that seems to be a little bit of an oopsie on the DM's part, as the creature is only supposed to prompt a saving throw versus fear in opponents that it attacks directly, not a blanket effect. Let that be a lesson. Nobody's infallible. Even experienced DMs make mistakes once in a while. You just have to roll with the game and keep going. Martin's resolve holds, and he stays with Colin as the creature attacks. Secundus was on watch down the hall, and as Shamil and Legolas careen past him in terror, he readies his mace and moves up. The shrew turns its attention to Secundus, and with a high initiative and super-fast movement rate, it is upon him in a flash, killing the cleric before he even sees what's coming. One of the mules is the next target, and while it gets hurt, it is not killed. Retaliating with a rear kick, the shrew takes a heavy wallop, but keeps fighting. Shamil and Legolas recover from fear once they are out of sight, and a shot from Legolas's bow finishes the shrew. Shocked by the rather sudden loss of Secundus, the group resolves to finish clearing the keep. Some rooms they are unable to open, which they mark for Caldwell to indicate that they couldn't get in. Finishing the last few rooms, Legolas' bluster about kicking in doors ultimately has dire consequences. He kicks in a door and stirs up a nest of sturges. Though they are surprised, giving the group a full round to attack, they only kill one, leaving 2 others. One flies in and on a high roll sticks Legolas for 2 of his 5 hit points. Colin fends off the other sturge, while Legolas and the others attempt to kill the one attached to him. Despite his flailing around and stabbing, the sturge rolls a 5 on the blood drain damage, which divided by 2 and rounded up is 3, and enough to kill the chaotic elf, who falls, much to the group's surprise and shock. The team kills that sturge and wounds the other, which retreats up to its nest, only to be finished off with missile fire from the team. Colin climbs up to the nest to make sure there are no young. There aren't, but he finds a few gems, as sturges like the sparklies. With the sturges done, and other inaccessible doors marked, the team is ready to head home and report their success. Only one room remains. Inside is a life-size statue of a shepherd. As Shamil and Colin enter, they hear a voice in their minds, asking how it may help. It indicates that they may ask 3 questions. Shamil burns 2 with vague questions, one about resurrecting Legolas and one about the safety in the keep. Both yield equally vague and useless answers. But Colin's inquiry about the hobgoblin chief bringing the scepter of Elona elicits the answer that the scepter did indeed grace the halls of the keep, very briefly. The team packs up their loot, the bodies of the fallen, and returns to the keep on the borderlands to report the clearing of Castle Caldwell. The session ends here. XP is awarded to the 3 survivors, Colin Bush, Shamil, and Martin the Retainer. Colin and Shamil make level 2, while Martin becomes a leveled PC class. His loyalty roll holds, so he will remain at Shamil's side for the next adventure. The Dungeon Master now allows Nathaniel and George to each pick 1 character class from the Old School Essentials Advanced options to become playable options for the campaign. Nathaniel chooses Paladin, while George elects for Bard, officially adding them for future character generation.
The clearing of Castle Caldwell is now complete. My previous assessment of this module still holds true. It's a good, low-level starter module with a simple map and level-appropriate challenges.
As you saw, there are many dangers, but not every solution needs to be solved with violence. The intelligent creatures can be parlayed with and convinced to leave, which may deny PCs some treasure and magic items, but could make the scenario easier too. Industrious PCs might even recruit NPCs and even potentially the goblins to the task of clearing out other dangers. There are also ways to take out the creatures by turning them against other creatures.
But really, I'm just speculating on what might be.
I like this scenario because there's no predetermined way to handle everything. Creatures are laid out in the dungeon without an explanation as to why they're there. It's on the DM to fill in those gaps, and it's not beyond the realm of logic. Choosing to make it a goblin bed and breakfast of sorts works not only to give context, but also to hint at players that the goblins aren't mindless humanoids to be attacked and butchered without a thought. Never mind that this and most other groups will do just that. At least the possibility is there. Don't be a DM who forces fights at every turn. You'll either butcher your players or be forced to save them. The technical design is a bit rushed, and one of the rooms is mislabeled, so that's a point against it on that front. But that's purely DM-facing information and shouldn't impact the player's experience if the DM is properly prepared. It's always worth considering how well a module plays, despite any deficiency in presentation. On the PC front, poor Legolas finally met his end. This is notable, as the player in question, Marcel, is new to role-playing games and has taken right to it quite well. He had a good run for a first go-around, and it shall be quite interesting to see what he does with future characters. With Legolas's fall, only 1 character from the Session 1 lineup remains, the halfling Gilbert, whose player hopes to make a return soon, but life can often get in the way of D&D schedules.
D&D players, tell me that's not the truthiest truth that ever truthed. Am I right?
Do I recommend the clearing of Castle Caldwell? Yes, I do, with the caveat that I do have a bias towards simpler designs and scenarios that are easily inserted into campaigns. This isn't an epic high fantasy quest that many players seem to crave, but it is a good, low-level starting adventure that's easy to DM and also appropriate for newer players.
I'll refrain from comment on the other 4 scenarios in B9, at least until somebody else has played through them, at which point we'll have at them. Until then, anon, my friends.